Welcome everybody. It's turned out to be a good day to be indoors. And I want to welcome everybody here to be a part of our service. We're in the midst of change, so we are striving to do a better job each time we get up here, and I'll say more about it later. But welcome everybody. Recognize Barry, Jack, Debbie, and Jerry back there on the.
So everybody join us in song this morning as we welcome, we open our hearts, we open our doors. Welcome to the temple, everybody. Welcome to the temple. Welcome to the sanctuary. We are here to greet you. You just come on in. Welcome to the presence. Welcome to the family. We are here to greet you. You just come on in. Come on in and sit down. We know you're looking for a place of love. And do you hear all the voices raised in song? So take your heart in your hand. This is where you belong. And open up the doors now. Welcome to the temple. Welcome to the sanctuary. We are here to greet you. Just come on in. Welcome to the presence. Welcome to the family. We are here to greet you. You just come on in. Come on in and sit down. We know you're looking for a place of love. And do you hear all the voices raised in song? So take your heart in your hand. This is where you belong. And open up the doors now. Welcome to the temple. Welcome to the sanctuary. We are here to greet you. You just come on in. Welcome to the presence. Welcome to the family. We are here to greet you. You just come on in. Come on in and sit down. Welcome, welcome, come on in. Welcome, welcome, come on in. Welcome, welcome, come on in. Welcome. Woo!
Yes.
Good morning.
Let's sing the song.
This is a song also reminding us how blessed we are. No matter where we are on our journey, we are always blessed. The presence of God is with us. Some of you may know this. Sing along. Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us, and let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in rest in God and say amen.
Now, with the prayer chaplain, bring the prayer box forward and say a few words. This is our prayer box. We keep it in the back of the sanctuary so that it's accessible for you to write down your prayers and place them in here. Well, they will rest here for approximately 30 days before they are sent to Silent Unity in Unity Village, where they're prayed over for another 60 days. But remember, you don't have to write your prayers down and put them in the box, because Spirit is always with you and within you, and your prayers are fulfilled to their greatest good. For this we give thanks. Amen.
Amen. Today's daily word is rest. I do the work that is mine to do, and then I rest in faith. The Sabbath is not just a regular day of the week. Charles Fowler writes, the Sabbath is kept any time we enter the spiritual consciousness and rest from thoughts of temporal things. Then we let go of the external observation of the days, because every day is a Sabbath on which we retire into spirit and worship God. I honor the Sabbath by ensuring that I set aside regular time in the flow of my life to rest in the presence of the divine. It's an essential part of the creative process. I do the work that is mine to do, and then I rest in faith. Allowing the Lord of my being to complete the process within me. And the scripture is, then he said to them, the Sabbath was made from humankind, and not humankind for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord, even on the Sabbath. From Mark chapter 2, verses 27 and 28.
Thank you, Jackie. Let us continue to move deeper in prayer. Maybe take an extra breath or two to continue to center yourself. And let's turn to saying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
So good morning, everybody. So happy to be here with you once again, celebrating spring, the time of renewal, the time of newness. As we move into a deeper time of prayer and meditation, I would invite you to continue to relax in your chair, in any position that's comfortable for you. The reason that we take this time during the service to move into prayer and deeper meditation is that there's a wisdom within us that can only be heard in the stillness. It can only be heard in the silence. This is the very presence and voice of God. If we pay attention to the world and keep our focus outward, we can become fearful, distracted, have anxiety as we watch things happen in the world. We forget that at the core of who we are still exactly as God created us, in wholeness and completeness, spirit. And so we take this time to move into the silence to remember these things. For in the silence, the core of your being is your true essential self. The only part of you that is real. The part of you that was here before you were born into this physical body, the part of you that is within you now. And this is the only part of you that you will take from this experience. Your essential self, which is timeless, ageless, holy, completely at rest and at peace. We can access this self now as we take a few minutes to turn within. So I would invite you, as best you can, to begin to bring all of your energy and focus and intention here to this space right now. Letting go of the past, letting go of any concern about this afternoon or this week, or any regrets of last week. Just bringing all of your attention here and now. For everything you need is right here in this moment. There is a wisdom within you that knows. There is a wisdom within you that heals. There is a wisdom within you that reminds you that you are a beautiful child of God. I would invite you to just completely relax and surrender to this moment, letting go of any tension in your body. Feel your shoulders gently drop as you begin to consciously breathe. Breathing deeply, watching your breath. As you breathe in, your abdomen expands. You exhale and let go of what no longer serves you. Begin to use your breath as a mantra, a place to focus. If you become distracted, even uncomfortable or irritated, just bring your attention back to your simple breath. Watching. Completely surrendering to this beautiful moment now, here. And just as your body has relaxed, take a moment to look at your thoughts, see what's there. What thoughts or ideas may be floating around. Maybe something grabbing for your attention. That stream of thought that is always there running through our minds that distracts us from the truth of who we are. You realize that you have the choice and the power for your mind to become still and empty and open. Begin to notice the space between your thoughts, the emptiness. For in this emptiness there is a gap, a holy gateway into your true essential self. For within you, there is a space where nothing is impossible. Within you, there is a space where you are still just as God created you. Within you, there is a space where you are perfectly whole, perfectly healed. So continuing to breathe, allow yourself to become empty and still and quiet. Listening for that still, small voice that is always there, patiently waiting for you to look within. Allow yourself to become empty, completely empty. Breathing. Resting. a space of stillness. We are thankful, Spirit, for this time together. For we have been brought here for a holy purpose. We are all exactly where we need to be in this moment. There are no mistakes in the mind of God. Life unfolds exactly as it should. We trust in this process. We trust in this loving guidance that leads us as we listen in the stillness of our hearts. May we continue to listen even more clearly to this voice of God that says, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that all is well. So for this time together we say, thank you, God, and so it is. Should we just go home? Wow, how beautiful. Thank you for going on that journey. I think we could have stayed there for a minute or 2 or 10 or 20. I remember years ago I was speaking and singing at a fairly large church in San Diego, and the minister there was very brave and was always doing, stuff that's out of the box. And I have a song called "In the Silence" that many people around the country sing, and he asked me to sing it for the service that day. And at the end, it just creates this energy of openness, kind of like we felt there. And it happened right before he was to speak. So I did the song, and when I sing the song, I just sit there, in the stillness and just let it be. And normally the minister finally gets up and has to say something which kind of disrupts it, And so this minister just sat there. 5 minutes passed, 12 minutes passed, 15 minutes passed, and I was like, what's happening? What's going on? But it was just so beautiful. And then he got up and, thanked me and spoke for just a few minutes. And it was one of the most beautiful services I've ever been to. That's strange to think that we sat there for like 15 minutes. Which in a church service, 15 minutes seems like an hour. But it was just great to go with the flow, because we all know this. If you have any kind of spiritual practice, or you've studied, or even if you haven't studied, the wisdom is within all of us. We know that there's something within us that knows all of this already, and we are only here to remind each other of that. Any book that you ever read, any retreat that you ever go to, any talk that you ever hear, is nothing that your soul hasn't heard already. And so this is just to remind you and to bring it to the surface. So that's what we're here to do today, is to remind each other of our magnificence, to mirror that back. Isn't that cool? I love that. And I think we can most beautifully do that in the silence. And I've facilitated a couple of silent retreats at Unity Village. If you're not familiar with Unity, that's our beautiful home base up close to Kansas City that's just gorgeous, with beautiful buildings and a new hotel, and where ministers go to learn. I would suggest anytime you get to visit, go up there. It's so sacred. Merlin Charles Fillmore, who founded Unity, walked the grounds there, and it just feels so sacred. And I've facilitated a couple of retreats there in silence, where we stayed in silence for 4 days. And people from all over the country were there, and I found it interesting that, and most of them I did not know, But I found it interesting that we actually got to know each other better by not speaking. Like, we didn't say anything. The first night we did an introduction and everybody just kind of said hello. Then we didn't speak for about 3.5 days. And I felt like I knew those people at the deepest level. And the reason is that we weren't able to rely on our stories to identify ourselves. We had to see the true essence of ourselves. Does that make a lot of sense? Does that make any sense? Because we are all so attached to our stories. If someone says, "Who are you?" we usually start, "Well, I do this for my work. I'm married or not married. I have kids." And pull out the pictures of the kids, or in my case, cats. Pull out my cat pictures. And when you strip all that away, you have to get to know someone's essence, which is the deepest way to know someone. So it's just so beautiful when we can even have the few minutes that we had a moment ago where we can really connect and feel that beautiful presence that can only be felt in the stillness. Did you feel it? Did you feel that connection and that presence? It's just the most beautiful thing. So I'm happy to be back. I was involved with the board meeting last night as we continue moving forward with some great plans and ideas to continually take what you have here at your wonderful spiritual center and expand on that and make it better and just listen to Spirit and know what the next move is. So it's exciting to me. I love doing this. We talked for 3 hours about everything you could ever imagine. From leveling the driveway to putting banners out on the side of the road to building chicken coops and just made that up. But it was really great. So you should be excited about what's happening here. I mean, I am, and I'm a visitor. I feel like it's family, but this is not my true home church. But I'm excited about what's happening with you guys. I love to see people and organizations excel and be the best version of themselves they can be. So kind of hold on to your seatbelts because there's going to be some neat and wonderful changes coming up. You may have noticed some new music and some new ways of doing things, so that's just the beginning. So if you were here last time I was here, which was just, I believe, 3 weeks ago, I did part of a series which I'm going to continue today and finish called Unity for the Streets. And if you were here last time, I'll just simply review really quickly. If you already heard it last time, just bear with me for a moment. So in my spiritual center in the New Orleans area, Unity of Metairie, at the beginning of the year, it's tradition that I do this series, and I've kind of trademarked that, Unity for the Streets. Let's all play that together. Unity for the Streets. We get a kick out of doing that. Everybody loves it. I said, I can't wait till January till we can all do that every Sunday. What I do is go back to the basics, and the reason I call it Unity for the Streets is that I go through the 5 basic principles of unity. We don't have dogma, we don't have really rules, but there are some principles that just kind of outline what unity is. And what I do at the beginning of the year, we have Unity for the Streets. I started and I take 1 week to go over each principle. So we take 5 weeks, and I'm able to go into a lot of detail about each principle. First week is week 1, week 2, etc. And so I'm having to shorten all that here for today, or we'd be here all day. But the main purpose of this is to remind us of the basics. Because sometimes a lot of this stuff we read in these metaphysics, and we read all these new crazy concepts, and when it comes down to it, our spiritual life is very simple. It's a very simplistic thing that we can do with our spiritual practice, and this helps us to rein it all back in and get back to the basic principles of what unity and what universally principles that we can use in our life. And it also helps us, and I love doing it because it helps me remind myself how to speak to people intelligently when someone asks me, if I'm at a lunch or dinner or at a party or a gathering, and someone says, I heard you go to that unity place. What is that? Is that a cult? What do y'all believe? What do y'all think about Jesus? What do y'all think about this? And all those questions come up. And if we're not prepared, sometimes we stumble over that. Have you ever found yourself doing that? Like, if someone said, well, what does unity actually believe? And, many times we go like, whatever. And so hopefully this will give us, including myself, I'm including myself in that, some tools and some phrases just to say beautifully what unity stands for, what it believes, that would make sense to someone. Because many of the ideas are just about what Jesus taught in practical Christianity about love and acceptance and realizing that the God is within it. So last time I did an introductory to what principles are, and I did principles 1 and 2, and we talked about those. And so today I'm going to kind of quickly go through 3, 4, and 5. So as a review, who can tell me what the first principle of unity is? God is good. God is everywhere present. There is one power in the universe. There's nothing opposing this power. It's only how we use it. How many people grew up believing there was like a devil or something that could get to you? You know, it still kind of scares me sometimes. I usually have like a red pitchfork and a really red face and all this. But our first principle says God is present everywhere. God is in everything. God is life itself. There's no opposing power. There is God. God the good. And what's the second principle? Yes, because we are an extension of God, as the scriptures tell us, we are created in the image and likeness of God. Inherently, we are good because we're made out of God's stuff. And briefly, I just wanted to say, this is one of the more difficult ones to talk about with others and to talk about within ourselves because, you know, we see a terrorist on TV. So how do we apply that there? Wow. So at the heart, at the base of this person is God, is love. That's hard to understand and accept. Especially if it's something very tragic and vile. You just think, man, how can this be? But in order for all these principles to work and be truthful and for us to really see the universe in the way that unity teaches, we have to accept that at the core of every living being, there is God, God the good. And the way I explained it, and I heard someone, I stole this from someone, I don't remember who, but I heard someone talk about it this way. They said it's like a stereo dial. If the stereo is God, and you can turn the dial like all the way down, and that would be like Hitler or a terrorist or someone that's come completely from fear, and so they're just acting out in the world through violence or whatever, then you can take that dial and turn it all the way up, and then you have Jesus and you have Buddha and you have Krishna. And then most of us are kind of in the middle, you know, somewhere along that path. But when someone is in this principle that says God is present in every living being, we have to realize that sometimes, or most times, this happens is because they're acting out of fear. They have forgotten their true nature, and they're the ones that need our prayer the most. If someone irritates you on Facebook or in politics or whatever, why don't we try, instead of fighting against them, have compassion for them and realize that at the core of who they are, they've forgotten how beautiful they are and how worthy they are. And they're just acting out in the world. They're the ones that need the most prayer. Our knee-jerk reaction is like, I mean, Facebook is beautiful and I love it, but sometimes, you know, you read stuff. Have you ever gone down like a Facebook rabbit hole where you're just like, and then you like come out and go like, wait a minute, I felt better before I started this. You know? I really kind of watch what I say. But it also can be a good reflection to see what you need healing, because if something pushes your buttons, that shows you right in your face what needs to be healed. You know, if someone says, hey, she pushed my buttons, and I say, well, you're the one that installed them, so so you gotta, you know. So briefly too, so the Fillmores did not come up with the principles. It was their great-great-granddaughter, Connie Fillmore Buzzy, I believe was her last name. That kind of sounds like a stripper's name, I don't know. Anyway, she was their great-granddaughter, and I may be saying her name wrong. And she was asked to write, in the 80s, she was asked to write an article for the Daily Word, which, once again, if you're not familiar with Unity, you should get your Daily Word. There's a short thing that we heard Jackie read earlier that gets your day going. It's a daily dose of inspiration. I know they have them available here. She was asked to write an article about the Daily Word to sum up everything that she thought the principles of unity were about, and very simply into an article. And so she looked and she prayed and she meditated and she came up with these 5 principles, and they were just for an article, just for people to read. And everyone loved it so much. Now it is adopted as our 5 principles, and it, you know, when you go to ministerial school, you learn these in depth, and these are the principles that we talk to people about when someone says, you know, what is unity? So if someone says that, the first principle, you can say, well, unity believes that there's one magnificent presence, God the good. Isn't that great? You know? So we go into the third one, the third principle we start today, and that's we create and co-create our experiences through our thoughts, our intentions, our beliefs, our conditioned mind is what I sometimes call that. The reason I say conditioned mind is most of us are creating by default. There's a set of tapes that are running in our mind that we learned as children and then in adolescence that are in the subconscious that we may not be aware of, that are actually running our lives and making decisions for us. If you're not consciously creating your life, then the creative power within you moves to the default mode and just continues to create what you see by default. Does that make sense? So if you're born in poverty, unless you make the change within your mind to see differently, you're just going to continue to create what you see over and over again. Because every day and every moment is a brand new creation. But we just continue to create the same thing over and over and over again. So this principle is very liberating because it says you are actually co-creating your world with this powerful presence within you. I'm sure many of you saw The Secret, which talked about the law of attraction. And, you know, I love The Secret because, you know, it even got to Walmart. You know, that's one of our things that went beyond like metaphysics. I mean, once you get to Walmart, you know, that's a done deal. And it basically talks about the law of attraction, which is this third principle that says we are co-creating. Now, fortunately, not every thought we think or every word we say doesn't come true, or we'd all be in trouble. Can you imagine that everything that popped in your mind, if it appeared in your world, it would be pretty disastrous for most of us. Now, I have to say I love The Secret, but what I think it leaves out is the fact is once you attract all this stuff, and you do your poster board, and you have the sexy partner of your dreams, and you got your car, and you got your house, and you live the life of your dreams, now what? You know? And to me, it just leaves, and I love it, I'm not saying anything wrong with it, but it leaves out the fact that now you're here to serve. I mean, you can have all that stuff, sure. Anybody can do that. You have the power within you to have any kind of life that you want, period. There's no limitations. But there's a point where we say, well, all that's good, and I got all this stuff, now what do I do? What did the old song says, is that all there is? Was that Peggy Lee or one of those old singers? She's talking about this like, well, I have everything, is this all there is? And the next step goes into service, which is one of the principles we're going to get to. So the third one is that we're literally creating and co-creating with this magnificent power within us. And we're doing it if we know it's true or not. I would like to use the law of gravity because principles are things that never change. They stay the same. So the law of gravity is always the law of gravity. It never doesn't work, right? Have you ever seen someone step off a building and then they magically floated? The law of gravity works every single time, right? These principles work every single time, no matter what. And if we brought somebody here from like a cave and we put them on top of the building, they wouldn't know what gravity is. They wouldn't even know what that word meant. But if they stepped off the building, they would have to succumb to the law of gravity without even knowing what it is. So you are using these laws if you know it or not. You cannot plead ignorance about these laws because you are a creative being that always wants to expand and always wants to move towards the greatest version of yourself. And that's why we get so uncomfortable when change starts to come. And if we don't listen, you know, we always get the cosmic 2x4. We've all had the cosmic 2x4. It's just better to listen. But we are co-creating our life. So the fourth one is, I always say, though, this is my favorite, because when I get to them, it becomes my favorite. The fourth one is just what we did a moment ago. Prayer and meditation is what brings us back into finding our true nature. Prayer and meditation lead us back to the central core of who we are. And specifically here it says, prayer is creative thinking that heightens the connection with God, mind, and therefore brings forth wisdom, healing, prosperity, and everything good. So meditation and your spiritual practice, whatever it may be, you may not like to sit by yourself. I'll never forget the first time I went to a meditation class in New Orleans in the 90s. I got so excited. I was reading every metaphysical book I could find. I kind of had my breakthrough. Do you remember when you first kind of had a breakthrough and you realized some book you read, or you came into a room like this and you realized, wow, I didn't even know all this stuff existed. This stuff is cool. You know, and I heard for the first time, you can create your life. And I was so excited, I was buying every book in sight. I mean, I went through everything, through the Pleiadians, the aliens, past life regressions, all kind of diets and stuff. I was just trying to do it all. And it was all part of my journey. And I remember I went to a transcendental meditation class where they were previewing it, and you could buy the class if you wanted to do it. And I left there so discouraged because the woman there was very limber, and she was showing it. She said, you go get a flower, and then you buy this kind of candle, and then she got to do some position that I've never really seen a human being get into on this mat. And she lit incense, and she was curled up, and I mean, I was like, oh my God, it was like, I'll never do this. Like, I just left screaming, you know. I was like, if I have to do all that stuff, I know me better than that, I will not do it. And I'm telling you that story is because I wish somebody at that point would have said, it's much more simple than that. It's just simply doing what we did a moment ago, and just doing whatever it takes for you to quiet your thinking, rational, intelligent mind that is evaluating everything in the world and always like a computer going like this, and just become quiet and listen. Just listen in the stillness. And it's harder than it sounds to completely make your mind quiet. I've been meditating for 25 years and I still struggle with it. You know, just the complete silence where just nothing is there. So do what it takes. If you don't like sitting still, jog, garden, ride a bike, whatever it is. As individual as we all look, we all have individual paths. So just find what works for you, and it's very simple. Make it something that you can do anywhere at the drop of a hat, so that you don't have to carry a bunch of stuff with you. I believe that one day soon we won't even have what we call meditation. I believe as we begin to continue to awaken and grow, that our entire life will be a meditation. That we'll wake up in the morning remembering our connection with the divine, and we'll just go through the day connected to that and listening to that. And then you wouldn't have to stop and meditate, because your life would become a meditation. I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that sounds good. I would love to be able to do that. Can you imagine being connected to Spirit all day long and every second, and making your decisions based on the love that you feel and the guidance of Spirit? That sounds cool to me. So, and I hate to have to run through all these so fast because they're all so wonderful. So the last one is also a very important one, and in this moment it's my favorite one now that we're on it, is we cannot just talk about these things, we can't speak of these things, we can't read these in books. We have to put these principles into action. We have to, it's what I call love in action. We have to take these principles not only for our own lives, creating the life that we want, but listening to Spirit and being where we need to be at the time Spirit needs us to be there. Giving into the community, whatever that looks like for you individually, and how that looks for your spiritual community, if you tie it out into the world to organizations. But also, on the everyday level, it's important to realize that all of us are ministers. That's why this fifth principle is so important. I mean, right now, I'm wearing a minister's costume as a Unity minister. That's not truly who I am, but it's my disguise I'm wearing right now. But the thing is, you're all wearing disguises. If you're an accountant, if you're a teacher, a lawyer, whatever you are, retired, you are just simply God in disguise. And you're fulfilling a purpose. And this love and action can apply to us every single day, because I truly believe that we are never, ever at a place for the reason we think that we're there. And an example of that is, if you're at home and you think, oh, I'm out of cereal. I love Captain Crunch. That's my guilty pleasure. I love it. I mean, I try to eat really healthy, but Captain Crunch gets me every day. It's so good. It's so good. And sometimes I'll be sitting there thinking, I live right in the middle of the French Quarter, and I'll think, oh man, I love some Captain Crunch. Just love, crave Captain Crunch. I'll walk to the grocery store that's right there in the French Quarter close to me, and all of a sudden I'm there in the store. Well, normally something happens there unexpected. I see someone, or I chat with someone, or I smile at someone that looks down. And I realize at that point that I didn't need Captain Crunch. That was Spirit activating me to be where I needed to be. We have to reframe how we look throughout the day. You know, we have to reframe. You have to realize that any time that you're somewhere, any time that you're there, there is a holy encounter going on. If you're standing in line at the bank, there's a holy encounter going on with the person next to you. You're not there making a deposit. You're there to be the presence of God. You're there to be the light of God. And if you start to listen through this fourth principle through meditation, you'll start to know clearly what to do and when to do it and when to say it. And it makes life really beautiful when you begin to realize every day I'm ministering. I am God in action. I am the hands and feet and voice for God. And we take this principle and put it into action in our everyday life. So the 5 principles to close are: 1, there is one presence, God the good. God the good. There is nothing opposing that power. It's only how we use it. What's the second principle?
People are good.
People are good. At the core of who we are, because we are expressions of God, we are inherently good. Even if it doesn't appear that way to our human eyes, it is the truth. And we have to let go of judgment of that. And third one?
Thoughts create experiences.
Absolutely. We manifest our lives through our thoughts, our intentions, our beliefs, all those things. And as I said, we're grateful that everything we think about doesn't just pop up. Or we, that'd be quite a show. And the fourth is
Prayer.
Prayer and meditation. Meditation heightens our awareness of God. It connects us to the Spirit within us. It reminds us. It reflects back to us who we really are. And the fifth one is simply to put love into action and take these principles and put them into action in our life. So what I know about everyone sitting in this room today is that you are a beloved expression of life. You are the holy presence of God in this world. You are the hands and feet and voice of the divine. You are here in this room for a holy purpose, and when you leave this place, you continue to be conducting a holy ministry for God as you reach out and put love into the world. You are loved, you are guided, you are safe, you are always protected. This is the truth about you, and this is the truth about me, and so it is. Amen.
Please stand. It's hard to do, I know.
I had to do that one kind of fast. I felt like I had a marathon going on. So some of you may know this song. Ricky Myers Beckwith wrote this.